So before I talk about the book, who wants to jump in, Greg? What distracts you? Let's talk about how we get what is distraction and how we get distracted before we go into his tips of how not to be.
I mean, I think for me, it can be anything of just noise, or it could be visual. It can be anything. I mean, we've converted our dining room into an office, and there's a big window to the right of me, and you don't realize, since you're being at home, how much activity happens outside. I mean, from snakes, deer, eagles, gators, whatever is running through the yard. It's like, okay, so it's just those kind of visual triggers that just throw you off pace.
So you'd be a proponent of going back to the office sooner than later.
Well, see, I don't mind it. It just, I just need to know, like, for example, I could close the curtains and to eliminate it, and then open it. It's just like you said, you just eliminating these external triggers that causes you, just by nature, for you to alter your focus.
Yeah. Yesterday I was on a call. I participated in the Shop Talk Meetup conference. So I had 26 meetings in 3 days. It was fascinating, but I have a pool in my backyard, and there has been an animal has been pooping on the pool for weeks. And we've been wondering, is it a squirrel? Like, what is it? And yesterday, while I'm on one of these meetup calls, I'm at the window looking out at my pool, and I see a big, huge green salamander, lizard, whatever they're called, crawl up on the pool, squat, poop. And so now I know what's pooping on my pool. It's the big, huge, whatever they're called.
Iguana.
Yeah, it was an iguana. We had put mothballs, but yeah, that was pretty distracting, because I literally wanted to say to the person I was talking to, I just found out what's been pooping on my pool. But I'm sure, I think he was the head of research for Moody's. I don't think he would have found that very funny. I think I would have distracted him a little bit. So, Jennifer, what distracts you?
I get distracted by volunteer work. Like I'm on all sorts of different chamber committees, county committees, especially now with COVID. I'm on the Economic Recovery Task Force for Miami-Dade County, which then led us to the affordability, affordable housing committee for people who are dealing with eviction, which led to the business committee. So for me, those are distractions. They're very short term right now, but there are a ton of meetings. We have weekly meetings, sometimes 3 and 4 a week, and to me that's very distracting. Yes. So his topic on the meetings, like why meet just to meet, was super appropriate. So I'm going to share that with, I already did it. I already do that in my office and with meetings that I plan. I have this, Darren Hardy has this successful meeting planner, and I always plan the meetings to make sure they're successful. But for me, that's my biggest distraction right now.
Yeah, meetings to have meetings is what a ridiculous waste of time. But I would just have one word of advice for you. Are you ready? No is a complete sentence.
Yes, I know. I am getting better. I've actually cut down on a lot of them, but yeah, you're right.
But I hear you. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I am good. How are you, Beth?
We're doing good. I'm asking everyone before we jump into the quotes in the book, or the takeaways in the book, as what is your number one distraction? What distracts you?
So I find that oftentimes I'll, survey my mind and think about all the things that I need to do and try to jump into all the different things at once. So I'll start one thing and then I'm like, oh, wait, I have to do that. I don't want to forget. And then go into that. And then rustle around and then realize I got like 10% of everything done.
I hear you. Ryan, what about you? Thank you,
Yeah,
Nicole.
I would definitely share the sentiment of I get caught up kind of doing inventory and identifying, that it has helped me kind of move the needle as opposed to kind of chasing my own tail. Definitely would prefer to get back in the office just as a junior person. That learning through osmosis is essential for me. But yeah, just distracted by ambitions and dreams like everyone else.
Well, those are good things. Those are good distractions. You just have to have them, like he says, time blocking time for that, right? I mean, a woman that I follow on Instagram, Sarah Blakely, who is the founder and CEO of Spanx, and she owns it in its entirety. There's no public board, there's no company. She owns it, a multi-billion-dollar company. She just posted on Instagram that she took 3 days, a thinking vacation. I think she followed this advice from Warren Buffett, and she had a stack of books. This would be my favorite vacation. She had literally like 9 books. And I was thinking I should go on a thinking vacation, but I don't have 4 little kids running around. I could just have a thinking vacation in my house and not spend thousands of dollars. So, but I was like, I would like to go away, and look. She was looking over a marshy land. It looked lovely, and just thinking. But I think it's so important that we all have included, whether in an hour a week, or at the very least a couple hours a month, to be thinking and be thinking about, are we on the path where we want to go? When we started in January, our goals were X. Where are we with our goals? Maybe we got sidetracked, but how can we get back? We've got 90 days left or less, right? November, December. Yeah. So maybe 70 days left to accomplish one of the things that we started thinking about back in January. So
Yeah.
Just thinking. Sheila, what distracts you?
I tend to go very fast as far as getting things done, being on the ball. What distracts me is that by the time and obviously I delegate, by the time I'm thinking about what I delegated, it's distracting to me to have to go backwards and follow up with the people that are supposed to be taking care of what I delegated. So it stops me from continuing to move forward, because I have to stop, go back, see where they are. When am I going to get it? You know what I mean? That's very distracting to me.
Yeah. Chloe's on the call. I always tell people that I delegate things to. I don't want to be your to-do list, right? If I give you something, I need you guys to and I should do a better job too. And Sheila, maybe, we both could do this, every Wednesday, every night at 5:00, give me an update of where you are with the things I gave you. So we're not following up with them.
Right.
We
have to make my lists and delegate and think it's taken care of. And then a day or two later, I'm looking at my list going, hey, that never got that information. And so I'm having to go backwards to go forwards.
Right. And I was like, I think I gave Josie this to do a week ago, and I haven't seen anything about it. Right. So having them give us an update instead of us giving them an update. Well, anyone else want to jump in and give what distracts them before we go into some of the takeaways from the book? Mel or Liz? I don't want to leave anyone out. Okay. So Mel, yes? No? Okay. So Greg, so Jen, you read the book. Greg, you read the book. So you guys that read the book, what was your favorite takeaway?
I think for me, it was, he talks about in the beginning of this 10-minute rule. If something is, if you are like having to look at your phone and it's like causing you stress, just wait 10 minutes. And the urge most likely will subside. You'll be able to focus, and you're doing something else, or whatever the case may be is. So what I've been able to do is I've always struggled at night being somewhat connected like kind of in the moment with the family. You know, my wife tells me, it's like, you know, you're on your phone, you're doing some other stuff, you're working, whatever it is, and you're kind of ignoring, you know, you're not paying attention to what's going on in the world. So what I started to do is I take my phone, and it's typically the low battery anyway, so I charge it in the bedroom, and I just leave it there. And it's allowed me to be a little bit more focused of what's actually happening in our environment. And so I've eliminated that distraction, and so I can become, and I mean, it's made a huge difference. And you don't realize, like, I don't need to look at this every 10 minutes. And I mean, you know, I get that I'm unemployed at the time, trying to figure out new career move paths and that kind of thing. It's like, I don't need to do it 24/7. So it's not necessary. And it's been a huge difference for me.
When did you start that?
Halfway through reading the book. When I heard the 10-minute rule, I'm like, oh, this is not hard to do. And, you know, this book is actually a really good, you could kind of read it along the lines of what we did with James Clear and Atomic Habits.
Right.
It's very similar.
Right.
So you can build a whole class with this, with just those two books, and get a ton out of it. So
right.
Yeah, I implemented it a couple weeks ago, and it's been a huge difference.
Yeah, and I did like how they brought in what he brought in at the end of the book with family and kids and all of that. You know, right? That was awesome. Jen, what was your big takeaway?
Mine was on the time blocking. So it's the same thing what Greg just said regarding atomic habits and also the compound effect. They all talk about time blocking and developing habits, but I never thought of time blocking time for myself and my family first. Yeah, they're in there, but they're not first. And I thought that was super interesting, because a lot of times when I time block very effectively in the morning, and the morning's my most productive time. But then I find myself scrambling in the whirlwind at the end of the day to try to hurry up and finish up so I can get home and get dinner and be with the family and everything else. And since I don't have them on my block, I just assume that being home and cooking dinner and everything's enough, but I'm doing what Greg's doing. I'm on my phone, or I'm sending a last email. And I think if I have them there, then I come to a hard stop at the end of the day when I leave the office, and that time is for them. And then maybe I pick it up again after dinner or whatever, if there's something I need to do. But I thought that time blocking time for yourself and time for your family and doing that first was a great takeaway.
Yeah, you know, we all talk about it, and we all, I think, believe it, right? That if you said, what are your values, right? We're all going to say our family. And then I think he says, now go to your calendar and see, what are your values? Where are you putting time? Do you have things scheduled every day or every week for your family? Probably not. They're not on your calendar. They're not scheduled. It's, what are your values? Like, I loved, and we've heard this, right? We've heard this again and again and again. What was different in his book, which I thought was, it just kind of made me stop and think differently about the same topic, is when he said, my friends are valuable to me. And then he said, what my wife and I did was we decided every Wednesday was going to be friends night, or every other Wednesday. And they get together with, I think, 4 other couples, and they schedule it. And it's like a non-negotiable. Every other Wednesday, they go to a park. He said social distancing. He goes, everyone brings their own meal and cocktail or whatever. And that they had, I think they had 3 questions. I don't remember the questions, maybe one of you do, but they had like almost kind of like a little bit of an agenda, that he said it wasn't to formalize it, but it was just definitely so that the guys didn't start talking about football and the girls start talking, whatever, gender biases or gender roles or whatever. But, and that they went around talking about, they pick a topic or a question. And he said, my relationships with my friends that are very important to me, that I highly value, has been strengthened because of the time together, and that we've discussed a question that then we learned more about each other, and then that deepened the strength of the relationship. And by talking about friends instead of kids, it kind of strengthened the whole idea about me and the kids, if that makes sense. Because, you know, we just hear the thing about the kids all the time. And whenever you hear something about, you know, kids all the time, you know, hear something again and again and again, you just say, oh yeah, I know that. But then by him talking about, we plan something with our friends, he said that they woke up and they realized that they love spending time with their friends, but they hadn't seen a certain couple for 2 years. And so I thought that was awesome. And going back to scheduling it in the calendar and saying at the end of a week, looking back, if my family's number one in my life, let me look at my calendar for the last week and see if a stranger looked at my calendar, where would they see my values? I thought that was pretty powerful. So I think that he's a big proponent of scheduling. Someone recommended that I listen to a podcast that he was on, Nir Eyal. And I was listening the other day to a podcast. I didn't get the whole thing, but he said that most successful executives have their calendars planned out, some, say every 15 minutes, some say you need to leave open time. But I do think that scheduling and planning out your calendar is very important for you to not get distracted and to get stuff done. We interviewed a guy, some of you might know him, Mark Elias. He's with Regency. And Mark has been with Regency for 6 years, except for the first year. He's been the number one producer in the entire company of Regency for the last 5 years. By far, has blown everyone away. And I interviewed him for my leasing agent forum. And I said, what my question is what's the number one thing that contributed to the success of you being number one for the last 5 years? And he said, the 8 elephants. And I said, what are the 8 elephants? And he said, every night before I go to bed, I think about my day for tomorrow and I write down the 8 elephants that I'm going to knock out before noon. My goal is to do it before noon every day. Because he says, I get 40 to, he goes, I have 48 properties I'm leasing. I can get 40 to 50 incoming calls a day that my goal is to return everyone's call within 24 to 48 hours. But if all I did was show up at the office and start returning phone calls and emails, I would never get to the big stuff. I've been recently, I heard the term income producing activity. So I told Mark, I said, I do that. I only do 3. I'm much older than you. So I only do 3, but every night, around 11, I say, what are the 3 things? And they're not today's top 3 things. The book club wasn't on it because it's going to get done. These are 3 things that you can easily procrastinate or get distracted from doing, but are crucially important for you to move the ball, 10 yards. So I do 3, he does 8. I'm very happy when I get to Friday night at 5 and I've done 12 of the 15 for the week. And they're always things that can be procrastinated. So if I have a conference call, that's not one of the 3. I had a Didi's, I'm negotiating a Didi's lease. I had a call with an attorney. That's not one of the 3 because I know that will happen. I'm not going to I could do that tomorrow. It's those things, maybe for Greg, he's, looking for a new position. Maybe it's cold calling 3 new employers, easily able to put that off, Greg, right? But crucially important. And most of the time, mine most of the time are cold calling or prospecting, either a training opportunity or a national retailer or someone I want to try to buy a property from. It's those things that I'm like maybe I'm going to get rejected today. I feel better. I'll feel happier on Monday. I'll do that on Monday. So I think that helps me not be distracted, because I do it at 11 o'clock right before I turn the lights off, and I wake up hitting the ground running, knowing these are the 3 things I have to do today. And a lot of the times they're phone calls or emails, and I can get them done before I even, start my day or get into the office. So that helps me. I know, Greg, you after Atomic Habits, right, you really started working on the time blocking, and that worked for you, right?
It did. And then, like with many things, you start to you fall off the rails. And, that started to happen. And a lot of it had to do with kind of taking a different positions in the company, and responsibilities were changing. And then you were exposed to other conference calls, and everybody wanted your attention. And so it became very difficult, and in an environment where, your attendance is necessary, even though I completely disagreed. We started spending 40% of our time just talking to each other, when in reality, and when we should be selling. If we're leasing agents, we should be selling. We shouldn't be sitting on the phone in a conference call with 50 of our best, closest corporate friends, all talking about the same thing that we talked about 20 seconds, 30 minutes ago. It's an epidemic in corporate America. It is an epidemic. It's crazy. And you just have to say no. You just say, look, this is not effective for me. And I finally got to the point where it's like, look, I'm not going to be in this meeting. I need to lease these 10 different spaces, and the time sitting in these phone calls talking about what somebody else is doing in North Dakota or Montana or Arizona doesn't affect me. It's hurting my ability to help lease space if I'm not learning what's going on, what's happening in Arizona. It's not effective. And
yeah,
that was a big issue for me.
So
push me off the rails.
Yeah, and obviously that's a challenge when we read all of these books and we get all of these ideas and we try new things, and then we end up not doing them. I would tell you, I've been doing the 3 things every night, I think, for 20 years. But I definitely try new things, and then like as you all know, I did the Miracle Morning for 68 days. I did it for 30 days and said, I'm not really getting anything out of this. Let me keep going. And after 68 days, I'm like, this is not adding to my life. Now, there were millions of people it added to their life. It just didn't add to my life. I just, for whatever reason. So I tried it and then I dropped it because it has to be additive. It has to do something positive. I liked what he said. He said, distraction, it turns out, isn't about the distraction itself. Rather, it's about how we respond to it, which is so true, right? So like just what you said, Greg, the meeting was the distraction. How did you respond to it? You said, look, I need to lease space and I can't be in all of these meetings, right? Or Jen, you're involved in all of these committees, and, at some point you gotta, you can't, right? We have to respond to the distraction, or the 10-minute rule. Like, I really want to go into my room and get my phone off the charger, but I'm with my family, and let me wait 10 minutes and see if that urge goes away. But it's addicting. I mean, I'm not going to talk to my kids about their video game addiction, because we've got our own addictions for sure. Nicole.
It was interesting that he also said that the distractions are what did he call it? The symptom, not the reason. That the reason is something internal. So, right, if we hate cold calling and that's on our to-do list, and all of a sudden I can get distracted by answering 20 emails or doing my social media post or whatever, I'm going to do that because it's more of that fun, happy thing that he was talking about, why technology is such a big distractor. It's not that it's the cause, it's the symptom. And the cause is that I hate cold calling. And
wait a minute, who would hate cold calling?
No, I'm using that as an example, right? And it's true, most people do. Like the stuff that you know you have to do is what you hate doing. Like I get so productive around my house, around tax season, when I have to do my taxes. It's like the rain gutters get cleaned, my patio gets, I do everything. So I think he had some good points on that. And one was to check in and take a look at what the cause of it is. And the second thing was to change the story. So instead of saying, I hate cold calling, it's like, I'm an awesome cold caller, or I'm a great cold caller, or something like that. And that's similar to like the ninja selling, where they say, your purpose of running isn't, of signing up and running a marathon isn't to be a marathon runner, it's to be a runner, right? So your reason for for calling isn't to be a great cold caller, it's to fill up, to be a great leasing agent. So I think those were some awesome points that he made in the book.
Yeah, I hate what I don't like doing, but I need to rephrase that. I love going through a 40-page national tenant LOI. So what do? I clean my purse. That's my distraction. Like I'm looking at the Starbucks or Chipotle or Aspen Dental LOIs, and I'm like, oh, I get a headache just looking at it. I would rather cold call for 8 hours straight and not have to go through a 30, 40-page LOI. So the first thing I do is I think my purse needs cleaning. Then once my purse is cleaned, my brain is cleaned, and now I'm going to attack. But my trick is I say, I just turn on the timer for 15 minutes. I only have to do this for 15 minutes. And then usually I'm halfway through and it's like, okay, I'm just going to finish it. That's my trick. I trick myself. But yeah, here's the quote about that, I think. Wait, I just lost it. Hold on. Most people don't want to acknowledge the uncomfortable truth that distraction is always an unhealthy escape from reality, right? So I'm allowing the distraction to go clean my purse so that I can escape from the reality that I need to go through this LOI or this lease, right? We're allowing the distractions. The distractions are an escape. Now, we should not be wanting to escape from our families. And I don't think we want to escape from our families by looking at our phones at night after dinner. But I also believe that we are human beings, like to solve problems. We like to be helpful. And when we get the 3 emails, we feel like we've accomplished something by responding to the emails. So we like to solve a problem. If our child came up to us, our teenager, and said, I'm having a problem at school, can I get your advice? You sit down with your child, you want to help them solve the problem, and you're very engaged, and it doesn't matter that your phone is buzzing at your hip, you're going to help your child solve the problem. Because I think we are problem solvers and helpers. But when we don't have a plan with our family and everyone's just kind of hanging out watching some, reality TV show or whatever, it's easy to then look at the buzzing on our phone and say, does someone need me? How can I help? And I think that goes back to scheduling, doing things, whether it's game night or take a walk with the family or walk the dog or play with the dog. Or I do think that scheduling things will help us avoid the distraction of helping someone else.
One of the things that he talks about, and that's kind of the latter part of the book, is the Identity Pact, and basically saying one of the quotes that he uses, it's like our perception of who we are changes what we do. And he goes into the pick, examples of, are you a runner, or do you feel like you have to go run? Or are you I have to go, versus more currently, I have to go vote, or are you a voter? Like there's like, it's the same sentence and it's the same thing, but you are labeling yourself in a certain way that impacts the action that you're going to be taking going forward. And I found that extremely powerful, because if you identify with what you're trying to do, whatever it is, it's an internal pact that we don't want to let ourselves down. If we've identified ourselves as a specific thing, we've identified that, we're much more in tune to follow through with that objective than if we label it as a noun versus a verb. It's completely powerful. It just changes your mindset of how you attack a certain issue.
Oh yeah, look, when I biked and I swam, and I kept saying to people during the whole biking exercise, I'm not an athlete. And then I started swimming and I said, I'm not a swimmer, but now I say I'm an athlete. I'm an athlete. And now I'm trying to eat healthier. And instead of saying I'm trying to eat healthier, I need to say I am a healthy eater. And by saying I am a healthy eater, when I go to reach for those bag of chips, maybe I won't do that because I'm a healthy eater, and a healthy eater wouldn't do that. But it absolutely, mindset on how you see yourself helps you avoid the distractions. Here's a couple more quotes. Simply put, the drive to relieve discomfort is the root cause of all of our behavior, while everything else is a proximate cause. So, and that's right. They say this in selling. When you read about like how to sell, they say that people want to remove discomfort more than they want to, I don't know, the opposite of that. But they say like deal with the fear or the discomfort or the pain when you're selling, which I don't like those. I don't like those kind of tactics. But they say that people are more interested in how do I get rid of the pain or the discomfort than anything else. And the drive to relieve discomfort is the root cause of all of our behavior. So I don't know, eating chocolate and chips at night, I don't know what discomfort I'm relieving, but I'm relieving a lot of it. He says, anything that stops discomfort is potentially addictive, but that doesn't make it irresistible. If you know the drivers of your behavior, you can take steps to manage them. And I think that's, what's the driver of our behavior to check our phones every 2 minutes? Like, I think he talks in the book, I'm pretty sure this was this book. I read so many books. Doesn't he talk about in this book, Jen and Greg, that you can look to see how many hours you've spent on your phone this day? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
you
how
track it. And
how shocked you are when you look. I don't even want to look. Did anyone look after they read that?
It was 8 hours.
8 hours on the phone.
Yeah.
My phone actually gives me my analytics at the end of each week, and it shows me like if I've done better or worse watching the phone. And I've been doing so much better since I started looking at that, because the way that I looked at it is if I'm looking at my phone, I'm not being productive. Because it's not me posting social media, it's me reading social media. It's not me necessarily answering an email, it's me reading the emails, right? And how many junk emails do we get that take us down rabbit holes? So once I started reading my analytics, I think that helped a lot.
Which it goes back to the stats, right? What you can't improve what you don't measure. So if you want to improve that by looking, it's just like the scale. If you want to lose weight, look at the scale every day.
Jen, I'm curious because with my stats, oftentimes, they'll say like, oh, this week you did more or less or whatever. How do you figure what extra, because a lot of times that's extra time reading articles or books, or especially for my laptop, right? How do you kind of like distinguish when you were more productive or more, doing things not productive?
The way that I look at it is I have a breakdown of the items that I do that are productive. So if I'm spending more time on my phone, like on phone calls versus on my email and my social media, I find that productive, right? I find that being more productive. So that's kind of how I look at it based on what I do. Now, if I were a marketing person and my job was to post social media, I would feel less productive if I had more phone time and less social media time, right?
Yeah,
So that's just how I do it for me.
makes sense.
I know, I mean, for me, like I most often than not, I'm reading a book or an article via my phone. So, but I've tried to dedicate, let's just say 45 minutes a day reading a book, and maybe another 30 minutes reading a periodical or two. And then there may be a webinar. Like I'm kind of collectively putting all of that information into one set block. So that way I know I know that is what I'm intended to do that day. I'm trying to be as productive in using my, outside of that, email is typically not going to be on my phone. It's going to be on my laptop. But the rest of it's going to be typically like social media, or I'm playing games with kids, or whatever the case may be. So, I have to be somewhat careful of all of that. But I do try to block, say if it's 8 hours, I'm saying maybe 2.5 of those hours are probably productive activities that I'm doing to, whether it be learn or job search or whatever the case may be, using my phone.
I like that you brought that up, because that's actually one of the things that I liked about one of the ideas that I got from the time blocking that kind of was like a light bulb for me, in the sense that when you time block, you're not just saying what you're going to do, you're saying what you're not going to do. And the idea of when, if you're not doing that thing on your schedule, that's a distraction. That I never really thought of it that way. And now I find myself oftentimes reflecting on that when I grab my phone, but my schedule says I'm doing something else. And I'm like, wait a minute, no. This may just take 2 minutes, but it's a distraction, and it's taking me out of that rhythm. And it may not seem like a big deal, but it could be, right? It could be taking away that very important thought that led to another important action that led to success, right?
And I think that point that you just made there was another book where they talked about the importance of focus and how much time, I think it was Atomic Habits, that how much time it takes to get into focus and how fast it is to get out of focus. And then, so if you're focused and you're doing your time blocked activity and all of a sudden you stop to check your email, you've not really broken your train of thought, but you've also now the time that it's going to take you to get back to that activity and back into that productive zone is significantly higher than the 2 minutes that it took you to answer that email or that comment on the post.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is where because I had read Atomic Habits. This is the first time I joined you guys, but I had read it previously. And I think that's what led to that thought when I was reading it, because I had read it recently. So the link was right there. Just another like side note, another really powerful thing I found from this book that it never even dawned upon me, but that the idea that willpower is not finite. The idea that willpower is more like something you develop. It's a skill set, not something that's expendable. I really, really like that, because I feel like a lot of times, me personally, I see it in physical activity or mental activity. You say to yourself, you push yourself a little too hard today, like just, you can slow down. But it's like, no, why am I limiting myself? Why am I telling myself that if willpower could be, if there is space for more, basically.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that about willpower. He also said, to receive fewer emails, we must send fewer emails. I thought that was interesting, right? I like that a lot. Yeah, he talks about measuring a lot. And absolutely, the focus it says, what these creative professionals understand is that focus not only requires keeping distraction out, it also necessitates keeping ourselves in. So absolutely, that 2-minute distraction, when I'm going back to the thing that I, love doing, reading 30-page LOIs, I put my phone on airplane mode. So I set the 15-minute timer. So that's kind of giving myself, intellectually, anyone can do anything for 15 minutes, but I also put my phone on airplane mode. So there is no buzzing. I have there is not a distract. So, and I just think that, oh, I didn't get any emails. And then of course I stopped doing the LOI an hour later. I'm wondering, why haven't I gotten any emails or texts? And I take it off airplane mode, and then they all come, but it protects me. It's my shield for the distraction. Whatever you need to have the shield from the distraction, I don't beat myself up about it. If that works for me, then I'm going to use it so that I can, because absolutely when I'm doing the thing I love, I have to focus on that. And I can't, if I get interrupted, I will absolutely, the 15 minutes will come and go, and then I didn't finish what I needed to finish. He talks about pre-commitment too. He says we must learn a powerful technique called a pre-commitment, which involves removing a future choice in order to overcome our impulsivity. So we must learn a powerful technique called a pre-commitment. So we're pre-committed. I'm pre-committed to doing the thing I love, which involves removing a future choice in order to overcome our impulsivity. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's very useful. I found it very, very useful, specifically with like eating habits and stuff like that. If I have junk in the cupboard, I might go for it. If I don't pre-plan my meals, I might just pick something out of the fridge that I shouldn't be eating because it's easy. So I think that definitely can work in a practical way and be just generally efficient, right? You can batch things up in an hour. You're planning your meals for the week in an hour versus 30 minutes every day. I think it can be a very valuable tool.
Chloe in the office laughs. I pretty much have the same thing to eat every day, and the restaurant, which is right downstairs, never gets the order right. I mean, I've only ordered it at least 300 times, but it's so easy because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about it, and when we do say, oh, let's try something new today, it's like 15-minute discussion. It's like, I'm just going to order what I order every day for 300 days in a row.
I read something somewhere about, I don't remember where it was, but it was basically about like how taxing it is, all the decisions we have to make in a day, and every little decision is like a little bit more and a little bit more, and just taking away those unnecessary decisions by either setting up your clothes the day before, or like you do, you say, these are the top 3 things I'm going to do tomorrow morning. You're making that predetermined decision, gives you less mental space to use on those frivolous things.
For sure. I love this. He says, the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Right? It's the only thing we can't get back, and we just waste it. Everyone, I mean, if we get anything from this book, it should be that time with our kids, time for our health, time with our mind. We fill it up with work all the time. And what?
So I just wanted to chime in. I think that's an awesome, way to frame it, and how we deal with, no is a full sentence. I mean, the little tidbits, but the narrative is, we have to be selective about how we use our time, and how he framed it kind of binarily with distractive or tractive, or traction
No,
or distraction.
distraction or traction. Yes.
And so even in a relationship, non-business context, there are things that you can be doing, or that you can clearly, instantaneously on a scale, what is this? And if it's intentional, you can enjoy that time more completely, knowing that it's intentional distraction time. But yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, the quote is, traction draws you toward what you want in life, while distraction pulls you away. Right. What do we want in life? We want a great relationship with our family and friends. Why the hell are we spending 8 hours a day on our phone for work? Right. Okay. So we have 3 minutes. What else? Any last takeaways from the book?
I'll add one last quick thing. I really liked the idea of taking control of your time again. The idea that people's jobs is to take your time. That's, social media, they're literally trying to take your time. And this idea of acknowledge that and then choose what you're going to do with your time, rather than just frivolously, letting them use it.
100%. Okay, so FYI to all my, committed members of this book club, Greg and Jen and everyone else, I'm creating the list. I'm creating 2021's list. So text me, email me your ideas. We're definitely putting back on The Alchemist, which I bumped for something during COVID. And then someone mentioned Barbarians. A bunch of people have mentioned Barbarians at the Gate. So that's one that I'm considering, but I'm formulating the book ideas. So I love to have a female author. I love to have an autobiography of someone in the retail world. Just so you know, these are kind of the things I try to do. Everyone always wants something on negotiations and time management. I'm reconsidering, I've said this before, doing Never Split the Difference again. We haven't done that in, I think, 2 or 3 years, and it's definitely been one of the top books. I like an older book, which I guess The Alchemist will fit that, versus, the latest and greatest. So share with me your books that you want. The next one we have on November 20th is Sell or Be Sold with the lunatic Grant Cardone. But whatever you think of him, I'm only 30% of my way through the book, and I cannot tell you how many pages of notes I've taken. So we'll reserve the right of what we think about him as a personality, and we can all learn. And then in December, we have The Art of the Start, which was another one that I postponed because of a book we substituted during COVID. So share with me some of the ideas that you would like. And thanks for joining, and have a great rest of October, and I'll see you in November. Think about it. Time, we shouldn't be wasting our time. And we have 70 more days to the end of the year. What was the one goal that you wanted to accomplish that you haven't yet? Let's spend 70 days working on that. And we all should spend more time with our families and our
Beth,
friends.
has this group ever done Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
No.
Okay, that was a really old book. It was written in 1938, but he thought it was going to be too controversial. So he left in his will that his family was to publish it. They thought it would be too controversial, so they didn't publish it when he died. And it finally got published in 2011, but it talks about the use of fear to control. And I think that's something that you and I have discussed several times about fear.
I'm adding that.
Goes back.
Other people have recommended that, so I'm going to add that to my list. I'm keeping a running Evernote list of anytime someone also wants to brought up the Nimhoff breathing book. I thought that would be fun and different. And because I love Gary V and we've never done the thank you economy, I think I'm going to include that. So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We already have January assigned. So we have room for 6 more.
Have you guys done what to say when you talk to yourself? Since it came up today about positive talk. It's about positive talk. It's really, really good. And
I'm
it's
writing that down, Nicole, what to say when you talk to yourself.
Yeah, and it's by Shad Helmstetter.
You have my list.
Greg, what's your
Well, I mean, there's a bunch, but if you want a negotiation book, it's called Getting More, which is from Stuart Diamond. He was actually Chris Voss's professor at Penn. I actually took a negotiation class with him about a couple of years ago in Pennsylvania, in Philly. That's a pretty practical book. I mean, almost more practical than Never Split the Difference.
Okay, great. Then that would be a great one to do instead of repeating. As you know, I like to keep the books that I've picked that have been very deep, like no one likes them. We're not a deep group. They need to be good, easy books to read.
Another one is Super Attractors by Gabby Bernstein. I just read that one. I was very fascinated with that one.
Someone just sent that to me.
Stacy?
Yeah.
Did Stacy Mooney send it to you? She sent it to me.
I think she did. Yeah, she sent it to me for my birthday.
Yeah, she told me about it.
All right, guys, have a great weekend. Let's go sign some leases
We'll see you guys.
or whatever makes you successful.
That's right. Have a great weekend.
Bye.